Nancy Mace earlier.
Yes, Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina got into a heated exchange with George Stephanopoulos on ABC's Sunday Morning Show when he asked her how she could support and endorse Donald Trump, who was found liable for sexually abusing writer E. Jean Carroll in civil court. Mace, who revealed back in 2019 that she was raped as a teenager, avoided answering the question by accusing Stephanopoulos over and over again of trying to shame her. Take a listen.
I'm not going to sit here on your show and be asked a question meant to shame me about another potential rape victim. I'm not going to do that.
It's actually not about shaming you. It's a question about Donald Trump.
No, you are shaming me.
You've endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Right.
Donald Trump has been found liable for rape by a jury. Donald Trump has been found liable for defaming the victim of that rape by a jury. It's been affirmed by a judge.
It was not a criminal court case, number one. Number two, I live with shame. And you're asking me a question about my political choices, trying to shame me as a rape victim, and I find it disgusting. And this is why women won't come forward.
Women won't come forward because they're defamed by those who perpetrate rape. Donald Trump
they are judged and they're shamed. And you're trying to shame me this morning. I think it's disgusting.
I'm not shaming you at all.
I've told my story. It took me 25 years to tell my story. I was judged for it. I still get judged for it today.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
And I answered it. You're shaming me for my political choices.
I'm asking you a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape.
It was not a criminal court. But to sit here and ask me as a rape victim to try to shame me for my political choices is wrong, and I think it's offensive.
You can repeat that again and again and again.
And I'm going to because I find it deeply offensive.
See, what you're doing is defending a man who's been found liable for rape. I don't understand how you can do that.
Not in a criminal court of law. This was a civil judgment over sexual abuse, not rape, by the way, and she made a mockery out of it.
Can we pull up the Washington Post headline right there? In fact, it has been shown to be rape. The judge affirmed that it was in fact rape. Donald Trump was found to have committed rape. That's just a fact.
That is a civil judgment, not a criminal court. They're two very different things, and you know better.
Well, I just showed you the facts.
You know better.
You show that you're very comfortable with what Donald Trump has done.
And what you've done is offensive to women who've been raped. What you've done this morning is offensive.
We'll let the viewers decide about that.
No, it's just not offensive, and she's not shamed because she's incapable of being shamed.
Although she tried to shame E. Jean Carroll. My God.
Well, Trump continually tried to shame E. Jean Carroll. And again, I guess
this is a woman who was leering and jeering Hunter Biden as he walked into the conference room when he tried to show up to testify in public.
Yeah.
And then ultimately their private testimony went very badly, but that's a side issue. She was acting like an 8th grader. Screaming at him.
I just wonder
shaming
how
him.
Stupid Jonathan Lemire she thinks people are. How stupid. And that's the thing. Again, whether it's bad acting, whether it's lying about a story that happened when George Bush was president and trying to attach it all these years later to Joe Biden and then going on TV and lying about it. Maybe after a while, Republicans could figure out why they lost in 2017, lost in 2018, lost in 2019, lost in 2020, lost in 21, lost in 22, lost in 23. Because they think that everybody is so stupid that they can do that sort of routine where she knows, she is defending, she is endorsing, she is all behind a man who a judge said raped another woman and then defamed her. Talk about shaming a woman if she's so concerned about rape victims being shamed. What about what Donald Trump does to his rape victim? Judge said she was a rape victim. Day in and day out, constantly shaming E. Jean Carroll, so much so that the jury had to come back a second time and make the penalty so bad that maybe he would stop shaming a rape victim. But that's who Nancy Mace aggressively endorses instead of a woman who saved her political life in South Carolina.
Yeah, Trump actually went after E. Jean Carroll again over the weekend, and there's some chatter that maybe she should file another defamation lawsuit for that. Yeah, it's bad acting, but really it's bad faith. What we saw from Representative Mace there, it was indeed, even though she's impossible to be shamed, it was shameful, trying to twist what George Stephanopoulos did and go on the political attack, tried to hide behind something, of course, that truly terrible happened in order to defend her support of Donald Trump. And this is what we're seeing more and more from Republicans, where it's not just that they're trying to lie for political points. They're detached from reality. And I do think there are consequences here. That in that moment, maybe they can blast out a fundraising clip and make a little bit of money. And maybe in their deep red districts, they'll get a little more support. But they're talking to a smaller and smaller slice of the electorate. That Americans, I think, on the whole, are tired of these lies. They're tired of the chaos. They're tired of the ugliness. You know, and I think that was on display Thursday night at the State of the Union when President Biden repeatedly heckled from the crowd. That didn't play well with most Americans who do want to see still, even in this day and age, some decency in our politics. And yes, we're a deeply polarized country, but this elections after year after year after year are still decided by those voters, as small as they may be, who are in the middle, those independents, those swing voters. And this is the sort of thing that repulses them. And that's part why Republicans have been on such a losing streak here. And they're making no effort, Joe Mika, no effort whatsoever to grow their base of support. They're talking to diehards who are more and more passionate, but there are fewer and fewer of them.
Yeah, and you know what you saw there with George Stephanopoulos, Katty K, before we expand the conversation, Nancy Mace, you know, who has openly spoken about a terrible experience, weaponizing it against George Stephanopoulos, which is, it seems beyond twisted. But again, this is Trump world. And this is a man who has been accused of rape several times over and has other accusers that he's bought off. And that is an allegation that might be brought into the case against him with Stormy Daniels. On top of it, said on tape that he enjoys and can grab women by their genitals, bragged about it, and then doubled down on that in his deposition when he was sued by E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah, I think anyone who knows George Stephanopoulos knows that he is one of the least likely people in the world to try and shame somebody who has suffered that kind of awful experience. I mean, that's just not the way George carries out his journalism. He's fair, he's honest, and it was a legitimate question. I wonder, you know, if Nancy Mace had been asked about any other politician, she'd been asked, I don't know, if this had been a question about a Democratic politician, would she have been so offended by the question? It's hard to know. I mean, you're right. From the Democrats' political point of view, the more they can point to the extremes of Donald Trump, the more they can point to the extremes of Marjorie Taylor Greene as she was performing in the State of the Union address, that's where they feel they can remind people about the choices that are at stake in November. The whole idea of Trump amnesia, as it's being called, when Donald Trump mimics Joe Biden's stutter in front of an audience in Georgia. How many suburban women voters in all of those cities we keep talking about, in Detroit, in Philadelphia, in Georgia, are going to listen to that and think that's the kind of behavior that they want to endorse and give their vote to? The Biden campaign thinks that it can just let Trump, be the most extreme version of himself, be the most obnoxious version of himself, and that is going to help them in November. And over the course of this weekend, we saw the extreme elements of MAGA behaving in the way that the Biden administration hopes is going to remind voters what's at stake, what the choice is.